Those Were the Days is filmed before a live internet audience.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to your favorite show about classic TV. Those Were the Days, where we take a look at old TV shows through a modern lens with the aura of nostalgia, you might say. You know, as we think about where we came from, where we were, what we were doing at the time. And this episode is all about what matters. And what matters, ladies and gentlemen? Family matters. That's right, Steve Urkel himself, Carl Winslow, Harriet Winslow, who we're going to talk about quite a bit on this show, and friends on that great TGIF staple. Tonight, I couldn't talk about any of this stuff without good friends to chat with, and that's going to start with everyone's favorite beat cop, Travis.
So yeah, Family Matters, quite the show. I can't wait to talk about this.
that kid next door that comes over to eat all your food, Audie.
Okay, I've been playing Urkel for 9 years now. It isn't easy to do the immature voice you started with at 12. Gotta get into it. Did I do that? Nope, that's not it. Did I do that? Okay, almost. Did I do that? Did I do that? There we go. Still got it.
Master Thespian.
Still got it.
Master Thespian Jaleel White. And the woman holding it all together for the rest of us, Amy.
I just want to say, on behalf of all women,
Boy, those emotions. I can feel it coming from, I don't know, from this upper TV area and this right side TV. It felt a lot during this episode of Family Matters. Look, the 90s was a long time ago. And yeah, we're going to it was some interesting days. And there are many ways I'm reminded that I was a child with children's eyes at the time. And as an adult with adult eyes, boy, things look a whole lot different. And you're like, where were the rest of the adults? And why did they think any of this was okay? Family Matters was an adventure, and it ran from 1989 to 1998 and got seemingly progressively weirder as the time went on. What became everybody's, what started as a normal run-of-the-mill family sitcom, man, we sent Steve Urkel to space. We put him in a transmogrifying box.
I almost picked the Halloween episode for Halloween, the one with the puppet. I really did. I watched it and I was like, this is somehow too weird. I can't do this.
It got weird. Yeah, but if you were a person alive during the TGIF era on ABC, which many of us were, I mean, you want to talk about the Nielsen ratings, TGIF had the block. That was the thing to compete with. That was the thing to beat. And it was difficult because it was family-oriented TV. That you could sit down with your kids of any age, your parents of any age, and you could find something to enjoy about it. And I think this episode of Family Matters in particular kind of showed a little bit of that branch storyline where you've got this one half that's kind of like mom and dad could get this. And then that other wacky storyline where the kids are entertained because Urkel's talking.
Urkel, yeah.
And he's existing, but getting real weird out there with the ladies. Not expected.
And it makes sense that TGIF would dominate ratings and be a family-oriented block because it's Friday night, right? So young single people and those without kids aren't home watching TV on a Friday night in 1992. They're out doing stuff. They're out whatever. So they don't care about these shows that are on. It's the families. It's, my parents are home with me and my sister, and we sit down and we watch, Family Matters, Perfect Strangers, all of these, step by step.
Step by step. Yeah. We're going to get to that one. That's enough. That's another wild one.
I did put TGIF as like a possible topic.
Sure.
Because there was a rotation. So
yeah. It had enough shows rotating in out over the years. Hanging with Mr. Cooper. You remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I do remember that one.
Not here to talk about Hanging with Mr. Cooper. We're here to talk about Family Matters. I want to know, to start with, clearly we all know about it, but where does it sit in your echelon of family TV time? We'll start with you, Amy.
I loved this show. I very very specifically remember that my sister did a really good Steve Urkel. And I now I want to ask her if she still can. But I remember that a lot. I did not remember that we changed Harriet. And it could just be that by 1998 I wasn't particularly paying attention to Family Matters anymore, but we did. This was like, I mean, TGIF was like a big deal, right? Like you'd be having Friday night dinner, and if it was the summer and we were like grilling or whatever, be like, TikTok, let's go. Let's go. The shows are on.
Mm-hmm.
No, have some ice cream, watch some TV.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. How about you, Audie?
Oh, definitely all about TGIF. Definitely was all about Family Matters. I mean, good gosh. I mean, we talk about it and talk about, Carl and Urkel the most. I mean, that's who I remember the most. That's what I always come back to, especially that time Urkel did the dance, and it was like the Urkel dance. It was just like, okay. But yeah, I definitely remember my Friday nights. We'd go get pizza. We'd go by the used bookstore. I'd look at comics, and then we'd go home and watch TGIF or whatever it was. So, but I definitely remember Family Matters among all of them. So this was a fun watch.
Yeah. How about Travis?
Yeah, same. I mean, Family Matters was TGIF was an institution in our house. Friday nights were a lot of pizza nights, specifically Little Caesars pizza.
Oh,
We would go and we would get because you get pizza. You get two pizzas.
two of 'em.
It was they weren't in a box. It was on a cardboard tray wrapped in paper. So if you weren't careful, by the time you got home, the paper was soaked through. Because it just happened that way. But no, TGIF was huge, and Family Matters was a big one. Carl and then Urkel, and just it is that thing where you forget how weird this show got and how much it changed from where it started to where it ended over the course of the series, all around Julia White and Steve Urkel as a character.
Yeah. I know for me, the first time I remember hearing the words Family Matters regarding this show, my dad tried to record something on the VCR. And I think the VCR, is this the time, y'all are going to have to correct me because my 5-year-old to 6-year-old fuzzy memory is not strong. But I swear the VCR could be set to a different channel than the TV. And the VCR would record whatever the channel that the VCR was set to, and you could watch something else on the TV because he ran everything through there. Well, my dad attempted to record something important, and then we ended up recording Family Matters. So I turned on the tape, and it was Family Matters, and I was like, "What in the world is this?" I had no idea because I was much more in Nickelodeon and whatever came on after Nickelodeon than I was TGIF at the time. So that was all I remembered. And then, of course, that shortly after that, Steve Urkel became an institution. And then it was hard to do anything without seeing Family Matters, knowing what it was, knowing who Steve Urkel was. Even if you didn't know what show it came from, you knew, did I do that? It just, and my buddy had a pull string Steve Urkel. I think I said that in the post show last week. So, I mean, it was all over the place. Man, I wish we still had pull string Steve Urkel. You could eBay that thing for some dollars. Maybe.
Heck yeah.
Maybe. You got to ride the wave when it comes to collectibles. You can't sell it when it's in the off cycle. You got to wait. No. It's like a stock market. But anyway, but after understanding, watching Family, we ended up watching it every week on TGIF along with everything else that came on. The step-by-step theme song lives rent-free in my brain forever. And it's Travis, step by step, day by day.
Day by day.
Yeah, you know what the thing is.
Day by day.
Yeah, it's great. And the wooden roller coaster and all that stuff. Yeah. Anyway, we're not talking about that show. You guys have just distracted me. It's I got it together.
We really are going to have to do a whole TGIF episode at some point.
Yeah, it's a place that we've all been. Family Matters. 1989 to 1998, spinoff of Purrfect Strangers, which we watched together. Harriet did not feature in Purrfect Strangers, the episode we watched. But she was a main character in the newspaper where Larry and Balky worked. And this is the character that gets transplanted over into this spinoff of Family Matters. I think her husband, Carl, shows up on one episode of Purrfect Strangers, maybe more, at least one. And the producers of that show decided, hey, we should give Harriet a show. and just focus on her family in Chicago. And they were like, yeah, sounds great. Another family sitcom. Why not? Let's do more of those. We haven't done that
Absolutely.
before. What a unique idea.
Black family TV shows doing real good. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah. We just
Yeah.
the Jeffersons just ended. Let's get a new family up in here.
Mhm.
So they did, and they created it as a vehicle for Carl and Harriet and Mother Winslow, who was sadly absent from this episode and bummed me out.
She was the best.
Yeah.
She was magic. She was magic. There's something about the old lady in the episodes of TV that, Grandma Dinosaur from Dinosaurs. I remember,
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
just they're the best. And Mother Winslow was was also the best. So we didn't get her in this episode, but we did get Harriet and Carl, and we got Steve Urkel, who, funny enough, you might think Family Matters was Steve Urkel's show, but it didn't start that way. The first season, it was intended to just be a family sitcom, and Steve's role was a walk-on secondary character for an episode, only written one time. And the audience responded so well to the comedy in Steve's nerdy character, Jaleel White, his nerdy character of Steve Urkel, that they brought him back again and again and again. And as the seasons rolled on, it became less about the family and more about Steve and Laura and Myra and the people around
To the
him.
point where if you go to IMDb and you look up Family Matters, the image that they have for the show, like the poster, is Steve and then the rest of the family behind him.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
Yeah.
He became, and it's funny because the show never changed. Like this happened with another show that you might not even realize that it did. Saved by the Bell did not start out as Saved by the Bell.
Right.
It ran for a season as a show called Good Morning Miss Bliss.
Miss Bliss.
Oh,
And it was-
That's right.
It was centered around the teacher,
Mm-hmm.
but the kids were popular enough, especially Mark Paul Gosselaar as Zach Morris, that they changed the show, moved it to LA, and suddenly became Saved by the Bell.
Yeah, that's right.
So that was one where they completely changed the show around it. They kept the show as Family Matters, but it basically became the Steve Urkel show in a lot of ways.
And we could be upset about that to some degree because Harriet deserved her rightful spot as like the matriarch of this family in the starring role, like Mama's Family and the like. But you also got to understand TV's a business. And the eyeballs were on Steve Urkel. It's just like the similar thing happened with Happy Days. It was Richie Cunningham's show until they figured out Fonzie. Like Fonzie was kind of James Deany at the beginning, and he's almost unrecognizable as who he becomes later. But that show became all of Fonzie's show, and it caused some butting heads on the set between Ron Howard and Henry Winkler, if you can believe it. Not between the two of them as who they were as people, like they weren't bad at butting heads, but with studios, like whose show is this? Y'all need to figure it out. And that I think it led to some of the tension we're going to learn about later on between I know the name Jo Marie Payton and Jaleel White. So anyway, so the show is a spinoff. This is something I didn't know. It was originally on ABC for 8 of its 9 seasons, but was sold to CBS along with Step by Step in a $40 million deal for its final season. CBS picked it, which I think it was still profitable for CBS in that final season, but they carried out like that was what happened with the 9th season. It got sent over there. And both those shows, I think, died. Jo Marie Payton as Harriet, her role was done. Her contract was up. She wanted to leave, but she agreed to come on for the final season to preserve continuity into CBS's arena. And then that's when she and Jaleel White, according to the urban legend stories, whatever they tell, got into a little bit of a physical altercation on the set and had to be separated because it was just too heated. She did a Christmas episode in the middle of season 9, and she's like, peace out. I'm done. I can't do this show anymore. And that's when we welcomed in Judyann Elder to take over for Harriet for the remaining, I think it was 8 episodes they ended up doing after that. And she herself, Judyann Elder, fine actress. I don't know where did you guys land on her as a Harriet? Like, let's pretend she's Harriet and we don't know any different. Did you guys enjoy that her performance, I guess I should say? Travis?
Yeah, I thought she was
Yeah.
she was good. I thought she was, she had good mom vibes. I
Yeah.
was into it. You know, she didn't have a ton to like. I mean, she did have a fair bit to do in this episode, but she, you know, I think she pulled it off pretty well. I
Yeah.
thought she was good.
I think she nailed the character of Harriet,
Mhm.
but it's hard to change from an actress like Jo Marie Payton with that gravelly voice she had
Mhm.
to somebody who doesn't have that voice
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Yep.
have that work in your brain. Like me as an adult now, I can get on it. As a kid, I don't remember seeing this as a kid and knowing that. So like I don't know how much that would have thrown me off. Now I'm like, okay, whatever. That's it's actors, but it's still weird growing up watching Harriet be Jo Marie Payton with that voice and hear somebody else come in and do it.
Yeah.
And that's what's difficult. Like it's
Hmm.
nothing against her. Her performance was perfectly fine, but it's not the same performance. And when you invest so much in characters, it would be, it's anytime this happens with a recast, that's the biggest thing is how invested are you in that character?
Hmm.
And then and how much is this other person given to do? In this case is even worse because it was right at the end and it was kind of like well, we got to fill out the rest of the season, and the show didn't continue after that, so she never got the full chance to really get her feet wet and really dive into the character like somebody who, if you have a character that maybe lasts a couple of seasons and gets recast, you can sort of have the two different versions
Hmm.
Hmm.
of that particular character. So it's
Yeah.
tough, but she was fine. There was nothing wrong with her. It just she's not Jo Marie. Like it's
Yeah.
just not the same.
I think that's where I landed as well. There was something. Her performance was fine. She was a fine sitcom mom, and if it was from
Hmm.
the start, but she didn't necessarily bring anything special. And I think, like you were
Yeah.
talking about, Jo Marie's voice gave her an authority when she spoke that you're like, that is somebody's mom, and she
Uh-huh.
means business when she says things. Like you're going to listen to her. Whereas this was more, she's much more soft spoken, has a different demeanor about her. And it's kind of funny reading about it. Reginald Vell Johnson loved both actresses. He's a great dude, but he said it was almost like getting divorced and remarried in a day. He
Oh,
said
I
it
can
was
imagine.
it was very difficult because he and Jo Marie had such good rapport. They'd been working on this show for 8 years together. Like they had a relationship, a TV. They
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
TV married, and to have someone else come in and be like, okay, now this is your wife. And I thought it was fun to watch this episode play out because it's very meta,
Mhm.
Hmm.
because it's talking about how Carl had a girlfriend prior to meeting Harriet, and they were going to get married, and then switched up. We'll go through that in just a second. There's not a whole lot of substance. It'll be fine. But that whole deal really almost gave the audience kind of something to think about. Like,
Yeah.
okay, we're switching, and we're gonna have to be okay with it because they're okay with it. Look at them, they're making
Yeah.
up. They understand what just happened.
Hmm.
It's still hard. I mean, people are flipping instead of channel 3, they're going to channel 5. And that's hard for people to do in the last season of a TV show. You're ready to
Mhm.
sit down and watch TGIF, and now you're like, oh, now I got to watch CBS logos and commercials, and I don't know about all this because I don't know. Look, you form your allegiance to network based on your morning news, and if morning news on
Mhm.
ABC is better than morning news on CBS, you know,
My parents worked in television. I had a baked in television preference. Like
Hmm.
that
yeah,
was it.
that's what you're
Oh
gonna
yeah.
do. Yeah.
Yep.
I just remember we would try to find whose morning news doesn't suck. Oh, those people, they're
Mhm.
great. That's the channel we're just gonna leave it on all day. Whatever comes on,
Yeah.
that's what we're watching. But anyway, let's get into the episode a little bit because there's this show is insane. Uh, we open up with Steve and Laura are gonna go on a date. So for those of you who watched it or may not have watched, this is a part 2 of a 2-parter. Don't worry about it. All you really need to know,
You're good.
Myra and Steve broke up, or at least Steve broke up with Myra, and now they're dating. Laura and Steve are going to go on a real life date. And if you're not familiar with Family Matters, well, Steve and Laura have been the meet cute impossible relationship situation in this series,
Yeah.
and it is an impossible relationship.
Well,
It does
because it's
not.
been a one-sided relationship
Yes.
up
Yeah.
until now, all of a sudden, for some reason.
Someone has Stockholm syndrome here, and I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know
Yeah.
if it's okay.
Ugh.
This is
Yeah.
teaching.
It's all those like, just wear her down.
Yeah,
Just just keep asking, and eventually
Keep
they'll
going.
say yeah. And I was like, oh,
Mhm.
we did that, didn't we? Oh no, oh
Mhm.
Yeah.
no,
Be
We
friends
this
did.
with
all
the
goes down a little
family.
different now. Oh
Insert yourself in
no,
their household. Eat dinner
yeah.
with them, and then eventually she'll have to say yes. And she
Oh,
did. Laura did say yes. So they're going to go on a date, which I don't believe for a second, but that's what's going to happen.
mm-hmm.
So anyway, they go into this whole date thing. And then after that, Carl is telling Steve all about the previous girl he met. Because Steve is feeling kind of bad. I broke up with Myra so I could go out with Laura, and I don't know if that's okay. And Carl's like, hold on, let me tell you a story. I was dating this girl and I was going to marry her. And I even got her an engagement ring. And then I was like, oof, Harriet's fine. I'm going to date her instead. I'm paraphrasing. But that's what happened. And Steve's like, whoa,
Not by much.
Harriet's like right next to you, dude.
But he doesn't just say Harriet's like right there.
Yeah.
He gestures towards her
Mhm.
with his pelvis.
With his hips.
What are we doing?
It's like Steve always did
It
weird
was a
things
wild
with his
time.
hips.
That was Steve's language, working with his hips for some
Yeah.
reason.
Steve was that awkward kid. I mean, they nailed it. I mean, he's that kid that you're gonna talk to, but you really would rather be somewhere else, not talking to him. But this family had a heart of gold, a collective heart of gold for this awkward person.
Which you would
And-
think, after hanging out with his family for 8 years, some of that awkwardness might go out the window a little bit. The family
Yeah,
might rub off on him a
just
little
like,
bit.
no,
Yeah.
no. This is
No, if
TV.
anything, he gets weirder and more awkward as the show goes on. Even though Jaleel White just gets older and more jacked as the show goes on.
Mhm.
Yeah. Fun fact: they had to put him in baggier clothes in the later seasons because his muscles were starting to show. Because he hit
'Cause his-
puberty.
Yeah.
As good as this job pays, I'm not Steve Urkel, folks.
No.
I don't
No,
want to be
he
Steve
was
Urkel in real life.
Yeah.
good looking.
He,
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't exactly. Some dudes don't really have to try to do a lot, and their muscles just inflate at 18 to 22. And it's like, I think he
Mhm.
probably tried to match the character as much as he could, but you can't avoid it. Like if you've just got a physique that's just gonna be there, it's coming. And
He just goes out to play like flag football on a Saturday. Like he's just like, "Here."
comes in just. Some people get
Yeah.
that. Some people are very blessed
Mhm.
with that ability. I think
Yeah.
Jaleel White was one of them. But yeah, so he comes over. Harriet's and Carl's like, "Slow down, Steve. Stop gesturing with your hips at me." Harriet totally knows about this story, and she did. What she didn't know was that there was actually engagement ring purchased and an idea to marry this girl. From up this point, 30 years, Harriet's thought, oh, that was Georgia, previous girlfriend, whatevs. But knowing Carl was going to marry Georgia, different story. But we'll get to that. So next we go to Myra, who is just the most problematic character in the history of characters on TV.
Grief.
I'd forgotten all about Myra. Overacting Myra. I don't know who she is. You did what?
Mhm.
You hadn't
I
forgot?
completely forgot about Myra.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remembered that Steve had dated a girl named Myra. I forgot about like the wallpaper and
Oh my
the
gosh.
light switch cover and
Yes.
the bedspread.
Yeah.
When
This is
Steve
dangerous.
makes the joke about her having to redecorate, I was like, yeah. Mhm.
But dude,
I-
you need to call 911 right now. This
Yeah.
is not
Yeah.
the time
This
for
is-
comedy. She is gonna kill you and put you in her basement.
Yeah.
Do you know nothing? This is before true crime podcasts. You don't know that this is a problem.
Yeah, this is gonna happen. This is just, oh Myra, you need to stop. This is crazy. But it's not like really tell the authorities crazy. Myra literally has a computer in her room that she hides behind her vanity that's wired into Steve's glasses. So she can watch what Steve is doing. And look, this is an ABC family show. You know, we all are just going, oh, Steve's walking to the park and spying on Laura. We don't know what Steve's doing with his glasses on or where his glasses are. Like, this is real creepy town, Myra. You need to slow down.
I mean, at one point we see him getting ready for the date and he's in the bathroom like, Myra, how much have you been watching?
Yeah, Myra needs to slow. This is too much. But she's all like, "Oh, how do you know Laura's even a woman?" Do you have any proof? Because we know he has Myra proof because she totally flashed him in the previous episode. It's like, oh, okay, that's what we're gonna do here. This is the unhealthy relationship we've built.
It's not good.
No, it's bad. But Myra ends up leaving the room to go help Granny with something. So Steve wandering around.
Girdle.
Get out of her girdle. I mean, you need that assistance sometimes.
She brings the cold cream. That part did get me pretty good. Because what did she say when she comes back? Something like she shot out of that like a bottle rocket. Something like that. It was really good. I was like, all right, that's all right.
Yeah, there's comedy mixed in with the horror part of this.
Horror.
Yeah. So Steve's wandering around a room because he's by himself and picks up the remote that's right next to the TV, which is what you do. This checks out. How many times did your parents sit the remote on top of the television and then you go sit down and you're like, where's the remote? Oh, it's on the TV. Let me get up.
Don't lose it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dad.
I get
Thanks,
that.
Dad.
Good tips. So he picks up the remote laying on the vanity that's concealing the hidden computer, opens it, and he's completely flabbergasted. I can't believe Myra's spying on me. Really? And I took note of this. I thought this was really great. Steve's got his glasses, and he realizes that this is the Steve's glasses cam. And he holds them towards his face, and he pulls them in and out like, woo, and that's the big gag. That video was recorded previously because Steve's facial expression is completely different in the video than it is.
Sync that up well.
No, they didn't sync up his face, but they synced up the movement of the glasses, like the zoom in, zoom out, was actually pretty good. And had he not been making this face when he did it, and the other face was just straight on serious, I was like, all right. So then Steve, of course, flips out. He throws his glasses on the ground. And it's this point I realized that, yes, Clark Kent could hide as Superman with no glasses on because Steve is a different person.
The big one was the first time you see Zooey Deschanel without bangs and glasses on, and you go, "Oh yeah, no, Clark Kent could absolutely, no, you'd never know,
Totally pull that off.
Totally different person,
big enough glasses, and you wear them all the time. Like I don't have a clue.
Another
You
human.
could, I mean, and to be fair, Henry Cavill did go out in Times Square and wander around with a Superman shirt and glasses on, and somebody noticed him. It's like, yeah, okay, you're right. We get it.
Yeah.
We get it. We are too obsessed with what we're doing to worry about that random reporter. We get it. Even Pulitzer Prize winning reporters like Lois Lane couldn't see it coming most of the time. But one of the things I did take note of at one point when Urkel opens the computer, the vanity to see stuff, he goes, "What in the name of G. Gordon Liddy? How is this going?" And I was like, "Who's G. Gordon Liddy?" So I had to look it up. And for those that are unfamiliar, he was one of the White House plumbers in the Nixon administration, was convicted of conspiracy, burglary, and illegal wire tapping in Watergate.
That show's supposed to be really good. The new
I've
White
heard
House
that.
Plumber show.
Oh yeah,
Everybody's loving that. I haven't had a chance to sit down and
See,
watch it.
he used to do a talk radio show for a long time, and it played on one of the local stations that my dad listened to a lot. So that's how I learned of the name of G. Gordon Liddy. And then later on, like as I got older, I looked up who the hell this guy was and found out that he was part of Watergate. Okay, interesting.
I know almost nothing about Watergate because at the time of my schooling in social studies, they basically got to World War II and just skipped to the end. Like you'd get no modern history. It's like World War II happened. They know it's the end of the year and it's over. Like you got an exhaustive month on 1776, but you got World War II in half a day, and then it was like, I don't know, space. That's what I remember about it. So I had to look it up. Great public education. So yeah, we got we got Superman. We got Myra left. Myra comes back, and then we have Carl and Harriet spending a nice evening together. Where Harriet actually says, "Hey, I'm kind of bothered about this ring. Did you buy it for me, or did you buy it for the previous one?" Well, Carl's like, I don't. What are you talking? He tries to dodge it, and it was a woo boy. That was a mistake.
And so I was kind of with him for a bit, right? Because I was kind of with it because like there's no resale value on an engagement ring. Like you're getting nothing back from there until I found out that it had an inscription that it was engraved, and I was like, oh no, you can't do that. Nope, nope. Now you done screwed up, son. That is not okay.
Yep, I phrased the exact scenario to my wife, and as soon as I said like, engagement ring for one girl, but then you called that off and you gave it to another. She's like, oh no, you don't do that.
That's bad luck.
I was like, yeah, okay,
Mhm.
all right, hey, I got it. I was like, yours is real and it's only yours, never was. Calm down. It's just a scenario. I just needed some understanding because I was like, I kind of was like you. I was like, oh, it's really just a ring, and it was intended, blah blah blah. I was kind of bouncing around with it, and I was like, nah, it's definitely wrong, but how wrong? I need to know the scale, like
Yeah.
how much.
No, it was
Mhm.
I was pretty okay because like really, once you buy an engagement ring, like they're not worth anything. Like they've charged you on
Right.
sentimentality and that's it.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
he did get it engraved and that's not.
Yeah.
Oh, he
I
did.
did like when
Mhm.
he's asking Laura about it, which
Yes,
is like, what secondhand piece of jewelry did you give her?
it
Did
was
you
so
give her a
good.
Mhm.
watch? Did you give her a necklace? And he's like, the engagement ring. And she's
Like you're gonna be doing your ironing for a
like, you're
long
ironing for a long
Mhm.
time.
Yeah,
You
because
should be.
Laura, that's the next scene. Laura walks in and Carl's doing his own ironing, which,
Yeah.
gender roles and whatever. But he's doing his ironing and Laura's like, wait a minute, what's going on? You only do your ironing when mom's mad at you. And yeah, he said, well, she's not mad. She's just disappointed. That's what she said. Like, ooh, that hurts. That
Ooh,
hurts
so
when
much
you're an
worse.
adult. Like, I think if I was an
Yeah.
old man in a retirement home and somebody said, I'm just disappointed, I'd be like, I'm sorry. just, just off me now. I can't handle this.
Yeah.
I'm too old.
Uh-huh.
And
Um,
it was funny because I was definitely with Carl a little bit, just because having been someone that had to get an engagement ring and then thinking about that process of having to get an engagement ring, you bought one for one girl and then you have to get another one for another
Mhm.
girl. That's not what you're thinking as a young dude with a
No.
little bit of money. But then Laura puts it perfectly. She's
Yep.
like, when you bought
Yeah.
that ring, whose smile was it?
Yeah.
Do you remember
Yeah.
And
that
Carl's
day?
like,
Yeah.
okay.
Mhm.
And it's
Yeah.
like, there you
That
go.
put it in perspective for me too, because I had been on the side of like, yeah, you could have done better. But then when she said, okay, well, do you remember the day you got it? And he's like, yeah, it was a rainy Chicago day, do. And are you thinking about this girl smiling when she got it? Yeah. Whose face was that smile on? Oh
Mhm.
no. Yeah. It just like really brought it like to his side. It gave him perspective
Right.
on
It
what he'd done.
opened his eyes to what's going on.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and that completely changed everything. And to me, that's really skilled writing. Like that's really well
Mhm.
done scenario
Yes.
that I turned around and felt for him. Like I was having it. I was having emotions for a sitcom on ABC. And I'm like, dang, all right. I'm feeling stuff. I get this show
Mhm.
now. I'm not just watching it while eating my candy bar going, Family Matters. Like it
Let's get
it
back to
felt
Steve.
yeah, it felt real. So then we took it to Steve because we got to lighten it up. We got to keep the kids interested. And Steve and Laura are at the Italian restaurant. What was it? Amore's, which is
Amore.
a great
Uh-huh.
name for Italian restaurant because that's Italian for love. Did you know? But it's Amore's
Mhm.
possessive, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like a dude. And Steve makes the great joke, terrible Italian joke. Where's the suit from? Oh, it's an AMS. It's
Mhm.
a my suit.
A suit.
Oh, gosh.
Now,
And
as like a nerd type girl,
Mhm.
who has dated a fair number of nerd type guys, I felt for Laura here. Um, they are not good at any of it, and sort of the more they try, the worse it gets.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do appreciate that it's not something that Steve muscles into. Like, he's like,
No.
sometimes the fancy cool guys order for their women's.
And
And
he's
Laura's like,
nope.
not this women's. And Steve's like, okay, got it.
So yeah, I think that's the charm about some nerdy guys that will relinquish power. Like you want the remote, here's the remote. I don't care. Like that's basically how I've succeeded in my relationship. Like I don't need this whatever man position. Whatever. I'm gonna do the dishes. There's a lot. What needs to get done? Do you want the laundry? Would you like to drive? Do you want the remote? I don't care. I got other things to worry about. I'm busy rehashing Star Wars crap in my brain. You drive.
Why
So I think it's
didn't
okay.
they just take the Eagles to Mordor? I
Yeah.
don't.
What? Yeah, I literally in that meme of the dude rolled over at his wife like he's thinking about other girls. I'm like, nah, I just need to fix that steering on my truck. what's going on?
Mhm.
It's all I've gotten.
Or
Get
what's
a
he
foot
thinking?
shape.
Nothing. I'm looking out the
Nothing.
window.
Yeah, I got nothing in this
Just blank.
brain. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
completely. It's all in the box somewhere, and I've put it away. Now I'm just daydreaming about squirrels. Uh, that's
Yep,
fine.
it's just a spring meadow
Yeah.
with just a butterfly going past and a light
Yeah.
breeze. That's it. That's
It's
all that's
fine.
going on.
Yeah, but Steve is not that. Steve is going to talk all the time in that high
Whether you want him
pitched.
to or not.
And he's going to get up and sing to you your song, which
Mm-hmm.
every early 90s ABC show has a cringe moment where you just want to crawl into a small box and hide. We had one in this show when Steve stops the violinist and says, "Do you take requests?" Indeed, he does everything but rap, which I thought was like, oof, nice move, white Italian guy. Yeah, let's slow down here. But then Steve's like, "Oh yeah, whatever. I just want you to play our song." So he stands up in front of the whole restaurant. Like, I don't care if I was asking somebody to marry me. I'm not standing up
No,
and yelling out
don't.
in front of everyone else's dinner.
Ever.
Like, no, people don't even like you singing happy
don't-
birthday anymore.
I will not go out to dinner on my birthday because someone is gonna screw it up. I will not. I will not do it. Nope. I don't care if my meal is free. We are not doing this ever.
We can
Our
pretend
birthday's
it's
2
not
days
this
before
anymore.
Christmas. They always screw it up anyways. So
I have to remember that. Audie's birthday's 2 days before Christmas. It's filed away.
yeah, good luck.
But yeah, this is one of those things where they really make you wish you weren't watching TV. Because Steve then begins to sing "Happy and You Know It" at the top of his lungs, and I mean,
No one reacts the way that they should, with the exception of the maitre d'.
right?
Right.
No one. Laura is so into it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no,
Mm-mm.
you're gonna maybe roll your eyes and then you're gonna crawl under the table and pull the tablecloths
Yeah.
over your head.
An actual
When
human being
everyone
would go,
goes away.
Steve, I will murder you and throw you in the trunk if you stand up again. Like I will beat you with a stick. But Laura's just like,
Myra.
this is so great.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll feed you to Myra.
Yeah.
Well, but bear in mind, this is the Laura that succumbed to her Stockholm syndrome. Like
Yes.
she's finally
Oh, yeah,
given
that's
up
true.
after.
Which just makes me want to watch
8
more of the early
years.
episodes and figure out what the heck happened to Laura. What did Steve dose her with?
Yeah.
Right.
Hey,
It's
he
8
became
years of rebuffing Steve. Finally, she
Because
she
I mean,
just couldn't do it.
here's
anymore.
here's the weird part, right? Like it's not like if someone makes themselves a part of your family, like my best friend growing up, Doug, like we were in each other's families like all of the time. And his mom always wanted us, like when we got older, like when we were in like middle school, she always wanted us to date.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
we were brother and sister by that point.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was not that was not ever going to be a thing because we
Sure.
were like brother and sister. And like so if anything,
Yeah, you know too much. You know, the mystery
too
is gone.
much.
Yeah.
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 Because your song is "If You're Happy and You Know It," because we've been singing it together since first grade.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I
Mm.
mean, and like, and that's not something that's changed in Hollywood either. That was a complaint on the Flash series on CW that they wrote in where Barry Allen is taken in by,
Yeah.
you know, the girl who he eventually marries, but he grew up with her,
Mhm.
and like, that is weird, right? You just know too
weird.
much about that person. It's just that only exists in screenplays.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually happen in real life.
Yeah. In small towns in the 1800s, because your choices just aren't great.
Well, yeah.
Certain questionable
Yeah.
websites.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, it's up for grabs whether this isn't realistic at all. They would never have dated. There's nothing that Steve can offer that Laura wants other than, I mean, he's a nice guy. He'll take care of her. He's one of those people, like, whoever ends up with Steve is going to be loved forever.
Whether
But
they like it or not.
Mhm.
whether they like it or not, they're gonna be well taken care of and loved forever. And that's what some people need. Like Myra, who comes in and decides she's gonna dress like Laura, wear her hair like Laura, act like Laura, and just be Laura, and just intrudes on their date. After Steve's already told her, like, you need to never be around me again. Like, short of restraining order, he's just verbally, please keep some distance.
we understand this is the plot of a horror movie, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
This is a horror movie.
Yeah. But Laura, who's
Mhm.
clearly on some drug, I don't know what drug it is, but she's high as a kite for this evening. She has had
What
a
were we
Valium.
prescribing in the 90s? Yeah, like
You think Valium, a shot of bourbon? I don't know. But she's way too chill about Myra showing up on their date and like, being like, let's just talk it out. It's like, no, this woman dressed like
she's
you.
dressed just like you.
Like,
Did
how
y'all
does she
not
know?
see single white female?
This
Come
is what
on
I'm
now.
saying.
Yeah. How did she know what you were gonna wear? This is nuts. So Myra
Which means
shows
Myra
up.
was stalking Laura as much as Steve to be able to get that dress that Laura just bought.
Oh, that's a
Mhm.
good point. Yep. We're on it now. But they sit down and they're just like, Laura's telling Myra as lovingly as she can, you need to find somebody that loves you like you love them and not just one-sided. You love Steve, but he's not into you, so move on. Which is advice they probably should have given to her. And it's like Steve is in love with her, but she wasn't, so Steve
Yeah,
should have moved
yeah.
on. Feels very
Yeah.
hypocritical situation here.
It's not good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
no,
don't.
Myra, if you just keep wearing them down eventually,
It'll stick
Yeah.
with you.
No,
and
no.
I stay with you.
Yeah.
By,
Okay.
by, I mean,
I've-
math tells us it's going to take about 8 years, but it'll happen.
Yeah.
So
I-
just go for it.
What
I've
else
got
you
to
got going
say,
on?
if you want to have a little fun, watch the episode before this where Myra tries to seduce Steve.
Oh gosh.
Oh boy.
Steve must have something going on that I'm unaware of, because like I don't know, because he must be a great guy for
Mhm.
all these.
I mean, he's got those hips going. So
Yeah, he
I
does.
mean,
He's
Got
I
those
Look,
hips
guess.
going, and he has one thing that none of us have, Stephen. You know what that
what,
is?
what is that?
A writer's room.
A
He's got a
writer's
writer's
room,
room.
yes, Yeah, they
Mhm.
can pair him up with whoever they want. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, we're talking about a show that retconned out a child,
Yes.
Okay.
After a good
Yeah.
deal of time, like
and not like early
Yeah.
on, like 4 seasons into the show, they were just like, "What? No, we only have 2 kids."
this is trouble. Yeah, Happy Days got rid of Chuck, but it was in like the first half of the first season. Like it was
exactly.
Mhm.
not multiple seasons in. We just go,
It would,
no, we
it
only
would
have
be
two
like
children.
the comic strip of Garfield having what's his name, John's roommate, be around for like 15 or 20 years and then just him disappearing out of nowhere instead of having Lyman just sort of be gone before it got nationwide. Like
Yeah.
it's
What
half the
happened?
run of the show had Judy in it, and then suddenly Judy's just like, "What Judy? We don't
Mhm.
have it.
Yeah.
There was never any Judy here."
I mean, Carl's a cop. He knows some stuff.
Oh, God.
It could
no.
This
go.
show is this
Oh,
entire show
this
is
guy-
a horror
wow.
film.
This is
He's got
Steve's
dark
got like
I gotta go write
disappearing
like
boxes.
a fan theory. Hang on. This
Steve's
is
got
very
that.
good.
Steve's got
I'm
that
starting a
Stefan
blog.
box. He could have put Judy in there. Who
Oh, yeah.
knows? Lots
Mm.
lots of weird stuff could have happened.
Yeah.
But they have a heart to heart. Then Myra's like, "Here's a watch. It's a peace offering." I knew there were shenanigans up with that watch. That's stupid. I was
The
like, "They're
shenanigans
camera."
that happened were not what I was expecting.
Same.
Though.
Yeah,
I was
Yeah.
like, well, there's obviously a camera.
camera or
Right.
microphone in there or something.
So that later,
That, or I was expecting some kind of like inscription. It was a gift from Steve. We were trying to tie the story between Carl and
yeah.
Harriet into it.
Yeah.
Ah,
That's
see,
what I was
clever.
expecting.
Yeah, that's
That would have
clever.
been clever.
Yeah, I thought it was something.
Would've been.
I was like, "Oh, there's a camera in that for sure." And then
Yeah,
they just
yeah.
the cop. She goes and gets the cops. And that's the woman that stole my watch. And
That's the
it-
hussy.
The hussy.
the
That's
one.
the hussy. Oh, throwing down the hussy words.
Mhm.
But then we leave the restaurant at that, probably for the best, and we go back home where sensible things are happening. And Carl has dressed up in a fine tuxedo and gone into his kitchen where new Harriet, is doing the dishes at the sink with her yellow gloves on. Which I've only ever worn those yellow gloves to like grab something out of the bottom of a toilet or something. They just
yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
I wear them to like clean the bathroom, but
Yeah.
I don't. I don't know. It's like a sensory thing. I can't.
Yeah, I don't like the way they feel. I don't want to wear them.
No.
But I guess that was what you used back then because cleaning
Because you had
soap
to
was
keep your
harsh.
hands nice.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you
Yeah.
didn't want dishpan hands, right? That was
Yeah.
I never worried about my nails getting messed up washing the dishes, so I just didn't wear the gloves.
I
Yeah.
just do a bad job.
Yeah.
washing the
And I'm
dishes.
over here like my
Mhm.
hands are just as wet inside the gloves as they would be without the gloves. Why am I
'Cause the
carrying?
water
also
gets
true.
in like the top of your
You get
boots
the
when you walk in
spoon,
the
and then everything is
Mhm.
just the worst.
Yeah, and
How did we
God
become
invented
adults? How did
dishwashers.
we manage this?
They just invented technology so we just can make it.
We aged
Dishwashers
into
are a
it, and
thing.
society accepts it.
My dishwasher was broken for like 3 weeks, and it was like the apocalypse. I was like, I can't function.
What are we gonna do?
Buy paper and plastic. That's what
Yeah.
That's
we
what
do.
I'm saying.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Just ruin the environment.
Carl shows up and the slow music begins to play, and I'm like, oh Lord, here we go. Another cringe full housey speech thing. And you know what? I'm not gonna lie. This was a real sweet moment.
It was really sweet.
It was really sweet. He sits her down. There's something about her not being prepared and him being fully dressed up. You know, it's like, it's almost this undertone of, I don't care who you are, where you've been, we're together, and you can look, you know, here you are at your most domestic. You're washing dishes in your gloves in like your work clothes, and I'm still gonna ask you to marry me right now again, or stay married to me. And he gives her, of course, a new ring. And the thing got me, he engraved it with her name on it. And I was like, oh, you are smooth.
That is a good
You
move.
are smooth. Yeah.
Well done, Carl. Well
Yeah.
done.
You got, not only did you regain all the points you lost, but you got more points somehow. And I'm like, all right. And I wrote down, like, this was sweeter than I expected it to be. And again, like, all right, this show in its 9th season could still pull something. You know, all these shenanigans and ridiculosity going on with the Myra, Steve, Laura deal. And they still found a way to bring real solid feeling and good stuff into a show. Like, all right, they deserve it. They deserve their 9-season run.
Yeah.
I think it worked out really well. But that was the end of our Family Matters episode.
Well,
We end it
I
with
was
a
gonna say-
Dragnet throwback.
I was like, is this the reason Steve picked this episode?
I know, right? I did not know it was there. Because I was like, oh my gosh, this is the Dragnet ending. And it's this monotone voice talking about what happened. And it was Laura, Steve, and Myra getting arrested. But Laura was arrested for assaulting Myra. And then Myra got arrested for stalking Steve. And then Steve was just there who did nothing wrong and just wanted to get his picture taken. I was like, you know what? That's great. I'll take it. I will say that's when I remembered that Myra had two, like Myra Boudros Monkhouse.
Yeah.
Was like, that's just a writer just trying to make something silly sounding, and it didn't work for me. The Boudros part was that's just silly. That went way too Monty Python for me. You know? I'm not docking Monty Python. It's just a silly brand. You know what I mean?
It was a bridge too far.
Yes, it was one step. Like I didn't have to do that, but they did. But yeah, that's our episode of Family Matters. So, obviously, there's been some change of opinion in our future brain about how we feel about Family Matters. But overall, you know, did you have any good vibes, bad vibes coming out of it? Travis, you can go first.
Yeah, I mean, overall, it's still it was the show that I remembered. If maybe a little weirder than I remembered it being. But no, I still enjoyed it, and I still think that it's worth a watch. It's kind of like going back and watching Roseanne last week, where it was exactly what I remembered it being, and it worked so well in its time, and I can kind of transport myself back to that if I were to watch it again. Am I going to run out and watch it? No, but I'm not really in that like Friday night network family multi-camera sitcom mode anymore. That's just not the type of show that really draws me in. But if somebody said, hey, we're going to watch some of this, or it was playing somewhere that I wouldn't be upset about it. Because I still think it was a more cleverly written show at times than you would think.
Yeah,
too.
Sure.
Which I did appreciate.
Yeah. How about you, Audie?
Yeah, I mean, it was fun to watch. You know, the nostalgia's there. You know, Reginald Johnson as Carl, just spot on. And you know, even though he was like 20 something, Jaleel White's still trying to do this, nerdy teen. Steve Urkel still manages to pull it off. You know, the voice isn't quite as screechy as it used to be, but it's still, there's a difference between Steve and Stefan. So I'm with Travis though. It's still weird to see Judyann Elder as Harriet, just because that's just weird. and it's weird to see Laura liking Steve without any context or
Yeah.
build up, and just like, where did this come from? I
Yeah.
don't even remember this at all. Like, okay, let's go with it, and it was still funny.
Yeah. Amy, how about you?
Yeah. Like I said, I don't remember this part of the series. So that part of it was a little jarring. But yeah, it was good. I had a good time. I
Yeah.
am gonna go, but like this is now I'm now starting a blog in which I analyze every episode of this show about how it's actually a horror.
We look forward to
The
that.
dark side
Seasons.
of Family Matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we will find that, especially in the late 80s, early 90s shows. There's a weird time frame where things were going out of style a little bit, but older folks were still into writing them. It's like, like unsolved mysteries existed. Like Myra should be a problem, but we're not paying any attention to it. We're just we
It's
play
fun.
it
No
for,
one would ever do this. It's funny.
yeah, you could really separate the fact from fiction and just enjoy the fiction for what it was without making a big deal of it. It was a different time, and it's definitely a product of that. But it would be fun to go back and watch it.
We were far more cavalier towards that kind of stuff at that
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Than we should have been.
Yeah, I'm not defending it.
I mean,
was just a
serial
different time.
killers managed to operate for as long as they did for a reason.
This is true.
Yeah. We had a very, no, don't worry about it. It's fine. It's just jokes. They're not bothering you. That's very much that attitude. But speaking of serial killers, that's not a good segue at all. We're coming up on the end of the of our series. I'm going to let Amy take us to what we're doing next week first, and then we'll talk about what's next. Amy, where are we going next week?
Okay, so we're actually going to revisit something that we have already visited on this show, but I could not help it because it's like one of my favorite things ever. So we're going back to Batman. We're going to have to do some shady work to get some Batman. But this is like a real good recast to talk about because I feel like we've got a lot of value in both options. So we're going to specifically be talking about Catwoman.
Nice.
I have 2
Yes.
episodes for us. We'll be watching The Purrfect Crime, which is Julie Newmar. And then we also have Funny Feline Felonies, which is Eartha Kitt.
All right.
Okay, so
yeah.
and we are covered. So that's 2 of the 3 Catwomen. We'll talk about that next week.
Yeah.
We will talk about that.
Yeah. Oh, that's exciting. I love Batman. We've done Batman before, but if there's any show I would love to do twice, it's Batman. Because
Heck yeah.
it's just got content I mean, we could do a whole dang
We could do a whole
podcast
show.
on just Batman episodes one by one, and it would be the best time. So this is great. So thank you, Amy. I'm super excited about that. Also, next week we'll be closing our poll, which we're opening today, tomorrow-ish. When you hear this, there'll be a poll on what theme we're doing next. So we're finishing up recasting next week. So we're going to be doing some new stuff. We're each going to be throwing a theme into the pot. I will be going with cop shows. I want to get the cop shows out there. So Travis, where are we going for you?
So I'm tossing my hat in the ring for Twilight Zone episodes.
Ooh, all right. Cop shows, Twilight Zone episodes. Amy?
I picked Hanna-Barbera because if we want to get weird,
Gosh.
Hanna-Barbera is
Wacky
where it's
races. I'm coming for you. Oh, my goodness. All right. And then Audie, what's yours?
Throwing out political again, see if we can get that one.
Political shows. They're out there. Cop shows, political shows, Hanna-Barbera, and Twilight Zone episodes. That's what you're going to be picking from. Look for the poll on Twitter at Those Days Show. If you don't use Twitter, you can email us at thosewere-the-days-show@gmail.com. And you can also jump in our Discord at twodorks.net/Discord and put your vote in our Those Were the Days channel. There's a lot of ways to tell us what you want us to see. If you're in the chat tonight and you already know, go ahead and tell us. And we'll make sure we note that down. And we'll get that taken care of so we can vote on it. You guys decide where we go. We pick the themes, you pick which one we're picking. That's a lot of picks. Man, those were days picked a peck of pickled categories. All right.
We're just a picking and a grinning.
Yeah, we sure are. You know it. All right. Well, this has been a joy. This has been Family Matters. We've had a wonderful time talking to you guys. Please tune in next week on Monday for Batman. I know you want to watch that. It'd be a good time. And we will see you next time. For me, Travis, Audie, and Amy, this has been Those Were the Days.